today's top boxing news. Ow!
Okay, we'll start with this tomorrow. Set to go down on the undercard of Joe Joyce versus Joseph Parker. Unbeaten up-and-comer, and one of my personal favorites. Raven Chapman will be taking on former IBF champion of Argentina, experienced veteran, Jorgelina Guanini. A veteran of 16 professional contests, 16 professional bouts, sporting a professional record of 10 wins, 4 losses, and 2 draws. 1 recorded knockout. To Raven Chapman's 3 wins, no losses, and no draws, with 2 recorded knockouts. A ballsy choice for Raven Chapman, it really is. She doesn't have to be fighting somebody like this in just her 4th professional bout, her 4th professional fight. We're talking about a champion here, a champion who's coming right off of giving Stevie Levy her first professional loss. Could Raven suffer the same fate tomorrow at the hands of Jorgelina Guanini? Well, being honest with you, I don't think so. This isn't a knock on Stevie Levy, but not all unbeaten up-and-comers have the same ceiling. Not all unbeaten up-and-comers are created equal. While Jorgelina Guanini may have given Stevie Levy her first professional loss in her very last fight, that won't be the case here with Raven Chapman. If you know anything about Jorgelina Guanini, you'll know that she's an offensively minded fighter. She is an offensive whirlwind, the kind of fighter that's going to crowd you and invade the pocket to land short hooks and short punches mid-range to inside. Something similar is true of Raven Chapman, though she's not limited. She's not limited to fighting that way, believe it or not. Even though she's a lot less experienced than Jorgelina, she's more balanced than Jorgelina. At least to the eye she is. There are some similarities there, but Raven is a little bit more streamlined, a little bit more nuanced than Jorgelina Guanini. Jorgelina Guanini to the eye is the kind of fighter that compromises defense for offense, as she is an offensively minded fighter. And that works for her in some instances, though not in others. Didn't work with Ellie Scottney, Raven's old buddy, and one of my personal favorites. And Ellie Scottney, like Raven Chapman, is a balanced fighter that can play the aggressor and the defender equally well. And I believe that ahead of tomorrow's fight, Raven, in spite of just being a novice boxer at 3-0, she exhibits more balance in her approach than Jorgelina Guanini does. Because Raven only has less than a handful of fights, some of what I'm about to say I'm taking on faith based on what I've seen so far, some of it. But when you watch Raven, you'll notice that she's constantly changing levels throughout the course of a match. Constantly changing levels, whether she's coming forwards, moving backwards, or moving laterally. She's constantly changing levels. And both as an aggressor and a defender, that creates a lot of opportunities to hit the opponent with punches they don't see. She's light on her feet, gliding around the ring, changing levels while she does it. Bouncing in and out of range, fighting at a slight crouch, bending at the waist, bending at the knees. It's very hard to land a clean punch on somebody that's moving that much. And it's very hard to defend against punches from somebody that's moving that much when they're closing in, coming at you from different angles. You don't know if they're going to throw a head punch or a body shot, a body punch. I want to say that to the eye, Raven Chapman's got speed. She's got speed on Jorgelina Guanini. They're both offensive whirlwinds, but I get the sense Raven's a little faster. And I know that I might be going out on a limb here, but I also get the sense that Raven Chapman is a bit stronger than Jorgelina Guanini. I get the sense that she packs a bigger punch than Jorgelina, in spite of not being anywhere near as experienced as Jorgelina Guanini. She's got a bit of height, bit of size on Jorgelina. And I know how this might sound, but I actually think she punches harder. That might be the situation, that might be the case, though those questions won't be revealed until both combatants are in the ring, are in the squared circle. Jorgelina Guanini being somewhat shorter than Raven Chapman. Kind of get the sense that Jorgelina's going to be the one on the front foot. Jorgelina's going to be the aggressor here. And Raven Chapman, Jorgelina will be the aggressor and Raven will be the defender. And that's where I think Raven's balanced approach will service her the best. If Jorgelina Guanini tries to close the gap on Raven Chapman, Raven's movement will create a lot of countering opportunities for her. You have to remember, Jorgelina's a bit smaller than Raven, so she's got to get close to her to touch her. And because Raven Chapman characteristically makes herself a moving target, often changing levels whilst doing so, landing clean will prove difficult, but it won't prove difficult for Raven to touch Jorgelina with shots, to touch Jorgelina with punches, as Jorgelina tries to invade the pocket, tries to get in. I don't think it'll be hard for Raven to get off her shots because she is a little taller, she is a little longer, and I'd wager a little faster. Because we're talking about an unbeaten up-and-comer, a 3-0 prospect, there there are some aspects of this prediction that I'm taking on faith.
Got a lot of faith in Raven Chapman. I think she's the goods.
Other nuances and subtleties in association with the match is that while Jorgelina Guanini is quite capable of being an offensive whirlwind, she does seem to swing a little bit wide, at least a bit wider than Raven Chapman, whose punches are straighter, more direct, and her hooks are tighter, more compact,
more defensible.
Ultimately, it's a big step up in competition for Raven, and I have seen more of Jorgelina in action against a better quality of competition than Raven has had the opportunity to share the ring with so far. And I understand that, but sometimes
this is very ambitious.
I think Raven Chapman, at just 3-0, she's got the minerals. She's got the ingredients to win this fight, win it comprehensively. Jorgelina Guanini has never been stopped. She's never been knocked out. So it's possible this thing goes the full 8 rounds, as this is being billed as an 8-rounder. It's possible that this thing goes the distance.
And if it does, I like Raven Chapman to win on points.
I like the Norfolk woman to seize the victory tomorrow.
Raven on points is the pick.
Just finished a brutal session in the gym. I'm going to get Usyk in an headlock when I see him and strangle the life out of him. Because he's a little bitch and he can't do nothing about it. Pussy boy. Usyk, you little shithouse. You little shitbag. Talking shite, I'm afraid you'll put me fist right for the side of you little sausage. And all the shithouse, that big bodybuilder Joshua, that's a proper shithouse, that is. That's had the contract for I don't know how long and ain't signing it. You little sausage. You do not want to fight. Your manager's a sausage. I've never seen anything like yours. Poe for pack of shithouses. However, I will be fighting in December the 3rd if this sausage does not sign this contract, which I don't think he is, because I don't think he's got the bollocks to, because he's a shitbag. Both of yous are pair of little sausage shithouses. Joshua is a shithouse. Usyk is a shithouse. Yous are all shithouses.
So Tyson Fury's back to uploading several videos daily, calling out Anthony Joshua, calling out Alexander Usyk. It's all
been done before.
Everybody's a dosser. Everybody's a shithouse.
It's all been done before.
It's all been said before, and it's boring. It's just boring at this point.
Powers that be is supposed to be in the middle of ironing out this deal, so let the powers that be iron out this deal.
I have my own reservations about what Tyson Fury's been really doing here all this time. I have my own reservations as to what all of this really is, this fiasco, this public relations fiasco.
Eddie Hearn very recently addressed these public call-outs from Tyson Fury.
But the way George Warren spoke yesterday, again, I don't know if you saw that, it was that both sides are so happy with the way it's going and everyone's very content, and yet Tyson, that video was barely 10 hours later.
I think I agree with you. I think that what I'm hearing from George is very different to what we hear from Tyson. Like, you know, myself and George have got, you know, we haven't agreed, but we kind of said to each other, let's just sort of, and despite everybody getting interviewed 100 times a day, no one's bad-mouthed anyone, no one's talked badly about it, no one's done anything wrong yet. Everyone's been trying to move forward. So, and then Tyson does that, and that's when I start to doubt what's going on, you know. And I don't think, by the way, that video's coming from George Warren. Like you said, I think it's coming from Tyson Fury, who's capable of doing anything he wants. But the way that I read it is that Matchroom and Queensberry are doing their best to try and make this fight. It is complicated. The Zone and BT still have to get into it, and that's, you know, coming or starting. But the contract's got to be right, and that's what we're all, you know, there's been a number of calls with their team. It's not like anyone's avoiding anyone. There's been a lot of proactive conversations. So myself and Frank and Sean and George and everybody will continue to work away, hoping to get it done. But what we're not going to do is listen to Tyson Fury on Instagram saying, sign a contract, you sausage, and then just sign a contract tonight that's all over the place, that can't even protect his commercial rights of other deals. So it's a huge fight, and it's you know, it's going to take its time, but we're all doing our best.
What I think a lot of people here don't want to understand, Tyson Fury's fans in particular, perhaps Tyson Fury himself, assuming his interest in getting this fight done is genuine. What nobody wants to understand here is what I've been saying all along. This is a very big fight between two very well-known fighters, one in particular who's got a lot of corporate sponsorships, a lot of endorsements.
There's a lot of red tape involved, and with this window,
trying to do a fight this size within that time frame.
It's not realistic. It was never realistic. That's just not the way these things happen. That's not the way these things are done.
Eddie Hearn himself has his concerns, his reservations, and his doubts, and so does Tyson Fury's own brother, Shane Fury.
If I had to put my money on it, I would say it's not happening.
It all boils down to if both men want it, and if both men don't want it, and one's doing it for the wrong reasons, it'll never happen. He's going to have a run out with someone what's in my shape, and have a proper camp, proper sparring, a lot of Southport sparring, and get prepped for Usyk. Because no one in the right mind is going to roll the dice with a big fight with £100 million on line to satisfy some idiots in armchairs. So he's going to be probably fighting Manuel Charr.
Manuel Charr, who I mentioned to all of you some weeks ago.
Manuel Charr, who some weeks ago had somewhat of a verbal exchange with Tyson Fury by way of his social media. Manuel Charr, who not but a few days ago posted this image to his social media account indicating that he will fight Tyson Fury in December.
Now, why would Manuel Charr be under the impression that he's fighting Tyson Fury December 3rd if Tyson Fury's people are in the midst of negotiations for an Anthony Joshua fight?
Does this get crazy? He's losing his mind?
He just so happens to still be in the conversation 2 to 3 weeks later.
You heard what Tyson Fury said. With or without Anthony Joshua, he means to box December 3rd.
You heard what his brother Shane said. In all likelihood, he might end up fighting someone like Manuel Charr, because Shane doesn't believe this fight is going to happen.
Eddie doesn't either. In fact, a growing number of individuals are becoming quite skeptical as to whether or not they'll be able to get this fight over the line. And I can only maintain my original position. When Tyson Fury proposed that Anthony Joshua box him before this year is out, I don't think he made that proposition expecting Anthony and Eddie to be on board. I think he was offering them something he expected them to turn down. But when he saw they were on board, well, that created a different scenario, a different situation.
A high-stakes game of chicken, it looks like.
I mean, if you're Tyson Fury and you offer Anthony this opportunity at a time when he's coming off of 2 back-to-back losses, are you actually expecting him to say yes? Or did you offer him something you expected him to reject because it was your intention to make him look bad? I've maintained throughout that what Tyson Fury's doing is throwing shit at a wall, hoping something will stick.
And something actually ended up sticking where he was expecting to box Manuel Charr because he wasn't expecting Anthony to say yes.
Why would he? He was coming off of 2 back-to-back losses. He was so obviously still is at a low point. You're not expecting the guy to want to take on a fight like this at this time, but they made things easy for Fury and his handlers.
Too easy, if you ask me.
Way too easy. They've been way too cooperative. Tyson Fury and Frank Warren would never be this cooperative with Eddie Hearn. In fact, they weren't in their previous set of negotiations during the shutdown, during the pandemic. I'm just going to let this thing play out.
Not going to make any bold proclamations. All I can tell you is that a Manuel Charr fight,
that ain't box office.
That's who Eddie Hearn seems to think Tyson Fury's going to fight.
And Shane Fury, Tyson Fury's brother, Tyson Fury's cousin, former world champion Andy Lee, who trains Joseph Parker. He said he's got a good record, good name, former world title holder. There's a lot of worse fights to be made. There's no one else to fight.
What do you mean there's no one else to fight? Isn't your cousin in the middle of negotiations with Anthony Joshua?
I'm telling you, it just looks to me like what Tyson Fury wanted was to make Anthony Joshua look bad. Make it look like he offered Anthony Joshua a fight he was expecting Anthony to turn down so he could turn around and sell his fans this. A Manuel Charr fight.
You were expecting that Anthony Joshua would agree to this under these circumstances? Come on.
Now, in the event that Anthony and Tyson don't fight on December 3rd at the Principality Stadium, it is very likely that Anthony Joshua will return to the ring on December 17th, later on in the month, in Manchester versus a top 15 heavyweight. A very good domestic fight will also appear on the card. It seems that people at Matchroom, Eddie Hearn, Anthony Joshua...
Hey, listen, you know what I'm going to tell you. It's less than ideal for Anthony Joshua to face Tyson Fury so soon off a loss.
If you know boxing, then you know what normally happens after a guy loses a fight, or 2 back-to-back fights to the same guy like Anthony Joshua. What normally happens is you schedule yourself a tune-up fight, a confidence-building fight, a rebuilding fight, the way that Deontay Wilder is about to participate in a confidence-building, rebuilding fight. The Robert Helenius fight, a guy who was stopped by Gerald Washington, stopped by Johan Duhaupas, decisioned by Dillian Veit. That's the kind of fight you're supposed to fight in so soon off a loss.
If you know boxing, then you know that. Tyson Fury knows that. Everybody knows that.
That's the way it works, and that's why this proposition, this quote-unquote offer that he made to Anthony Joshua, you have to wonder if it was actually made in good faith. Was he being serious? Was he really expecting Anthony Joshua and Eddie Hearn to agree to his terms and make it this easy for them to do this fight?
Or was he expecting them to reject his offer so he could proceed to lambast them for it?
Was this really about making the fight or making them look bad? All whilst using that as the vehicle to try to sell people a Manuel Char fight, which I reiterate is a tough sell. A tough sell at the box office.
I understand that Tyson Fury needs to keep busy fighting between now and the time that he fights Alexander Usyk. I get it, but all this stuff, it was unnecessary.
Turn the place into a goddamn circus, making empty promises about a fight you don't expect to happen, a fight you don't expect to deliver. It wasn't necessary.
From the start of this thing, I didn't make bold proclamations.
I'm not making bold proclamations now. All I'm telling you is Tyson Fury versus Manuel Char on pay-per-view by way of BT Sport box office.
That's a tough sell. It doesn't matter what you say about Anthony Joshua by way of social media. That fight.
And because that fight ain't box office, maybe what all of this really is Tyson Fury trying to convince people that he wanted to give them a better fight, but they're gonna have to settle for this because somehow the Joshua people messed it all up. The Joshua people are to blame, when in reality, you weren't expecting to fight Anthony Joshua. In fact, you were expecting this whole time to fight Manuel Char.
And that's what Manuel Char seems to be expecting as well. You see what he posted by way of his social media? He's under the impression he's fighting Tyson Fury December 3rd.
Joshua and Fury don't fight in December. You know what happens? They go head-to-head against each other at the box office. And I gotta tell you, Joshua versus Zhang, or Joshua versus Valine, Joshua versus Hrgovic, just any one of those fights. Any one of those fights is more box office than Fury versus Char.
Do you want to know why? Any one of those fights is more intriguing because Joshua's coming off of 2 back-to-back losses. Because Joshua's not...
Because he's not on the up and up. Whereas Tyson Fury's still an unbeaten fighter. An unbeaten champion. What the hell's an unbeaten champion doing fighting Manuel Char?
It's a tough sell, I'm telling you. That's the problem.